since I've done a parking lot live stream. I miss doing the live streams. I've been so busy. You know, I have this second channel, Explore Church Sites, and it's just been a busy year. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Utah. I did a lot of stuff there, and I don't know. I just doing live streams like I used to do when I lived in Kansas. I did a lot of live streams because we lived in a small town, and whenever we needed to go to a big store, Costco, Walmart, someplace like that, we'd have to drive an hour away. And so I would usually just stay in the car while my wife Jenica would go in the store, and I would go ahead and knock out a live stream. And we're in another one of those situations right now. I'm in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's about an hour away from Independence. And, well, my wife and my girls are shopping for clothes right now, so I'm not going to be in there for that. So I might as well do a live stream. Let's see, we got Joyce Zabriskie. It says, hi, hello. Meg Dobb, hello, Jared. The Haystack, hi from Idaho, moving to Missouri in 2 weeks. Oh, wow, so it's happening. You guys, the Haystack has a channel. Make sure to check him out. This is not the first time I've heard of him talking about moving to Missouri, so that's going to be really good for you, Haystack. Can you guys let me know if the picture and audio quality are good? Susan Miner, hello. Christina Green, hi from Oklahoma. I used to live right there, right on the border of Kansas and Oklahoma. We would go to Enid all the time. That was one of the places that we'd drive to go to, you know, big stores like Walmart. Let's see. Meg Dobb coming at you from Charlotte. I don't know if you know, Meg, but my friend Rachel with Women in Priesthood YouTube channel, Women in Priesthood, she's from North Carolina. Oh, Crizzy is also from Oklahoma. We got a lot of Oklahoma people in the chat today. Christina Green says a little bit, like a little blurry. I think there's a typo, but she's saying a little bit blurry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if I have the best service here. I'm not sure. Beverly Phil from Tucson. Hi. Oh, I miss Arizona so much. So much. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and get started right now. We got 38 people watching, but I'll just go ahead and get started. So, my friend Mindy with Temples of Jesus, she's always giving me really good information. And, like, I don't know about you, I don't really watch baseball. I have one of the fans of my channel. He was actually he was in the Major League Baseball. He played for the Phillies. So, I mean, but I myself, and I met him, by the way. He's a really cool guy. But I don't watch baseball. Mindy sent me a text saying that it's the World Series, I guess, right now. And it's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Toronto Blue Jays. And we just had Game 3 of the World Series, and it did not end at 9 innings. It went all the way till 18 innings, tying for the longest game in a World Series. The last time that happened was, of all years, 2018. If you're new to my channel, you may not realize why that's potentially significant. I look for signs everywhere because I think the Lord speaks in many different ways to many different people. You know, for some people, sports is a big deal. And he can speak to all of his children in their own language, according to their own interests, in very specific ways. And so when you have something going on that's a really big event, like the World Series, where you have a lot of attention, it's a prime time for the Lord to send a message, and others too. That's why you have all this money that's spent on advertising for things like the Super Bowl, World Series, because a lot of people are watching that event. So we all know that back in 2018, that's when President Nelson became president of the church. And so I guess in that year you had one of these games that was part of the World Series that went for 18 innings. And from the article that I read, it said that game was the longest, at something like 7 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. Of course it was 7 hours. But President Nelson in 2022, and I don't have the quote up in front of me right now, but for his pre-recorded message for FSY 2022, he told the youth that this is the last half of the ninth inning, right? And the last half of the ninth inning is the last time that you have any team that's up to bat. It's the end of the game. It's the last chance to score. And President Nelson was the one that introduced this concept of the Lord's Youth Battalion, and he did the big call out for missionaries during the April 2022 General Conference. And so one of his big things was, it seemed like a big final push, a last push, the Lord's Youth Battalion. And recently President Eyring said that these are the final preparations for the second coming. And so if we look at President Nelson's baseball analogy, which actually didn't start with him, it seems like it started with Ezra Taft Benson. Ezra Taft Benson said that we were in the final inning, and then President Nelson made it more urgent and said that we're in the last half of the ninth inning. So you see where I'm going with this. So if you're in a situation where it's like, I don't know what they call it in baseball, but I guess it's like the equivalent of like overtime, where it goes beyond just 9 innings. Maybe that's kind of what's happening with us in the lead up to the second coming. Like, think about this. Think about the Salt Lake Temple. I don't know that the timing of the renovation of the Salt Lake Temple strictly has to do with the second coming, but I think a lot of people think that it does. That it's being renovated in preparation for the Savior to come, along with all these other like pioneer era temples. You'll remember that the Salt Lake Temple renovation was supposed to be completed last year. Those were the initial projections. That's when they initially thought it was going to be done. But then it got pushed back, and I've tried to keep up. The projection date has changed. And as of right now, it's looking like it's going to be 2027. I've also covered the fact on the channel that the timing of the second coming is fixed. We have a couple different statements from prophets and apostles that say that the second coming is not going to happen sooner because we're good enough, because we're righteous enough, or because it's now, however wicked it needs to be. It's a fixed date, and the conditions are going to be such that it's at a time when wickedness is at probably like an all-time high, comparable to the days of Noah, but the date is fixed. Excuse me. So this whole thing with like these games going into overtime, I wonder if it is being used as a sign. I wonder if it's just meant to tell us, like, the Lord has done as much as he possibly can for us. He has hastened his work. We've seen a lot of hastening talk. And he's doing everything that he can to get us ready for that fixed, that set day of his coming. But I don't know. It's just it's so unlikely that the two games during the World Series that would tie for the longest at 18 innings, one would be President Nelson's first year as president of the church, and now this one with President Oaks in his first year as president of the church. And then on top of that, as we talk about President Oaks, this thing that's going on still right now as I'm recording this with Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica. It's a record-breaking hurricane. It's the strongest hurricane to have hit Jamaica. And then what was it earlier that I made in that video? It was something like, it's not the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic, but it is the strongest hurricane in the Atlantic to have made landfall. So I think there were a couple others that did not make landfall, but this one did, and it's the strongest, or it's tied for the strongest with, I think, the Labor Day 1935 hurricane or something like that. It's just, so, and then we have, so hurricane, and then World Series with Game 3 being 18 innings. And then, I don't know if you saw the video from earlier today, but you had this time capsule that was opened at BYU. It was sealed in 1975, and it was supposed to be opened 50 years later. And it had to do with the, anniversary of BYU. It's a 150-year anniversary. But when it was sealed back in 1975, President Oaks was the president of BYU. Imagine going back in time and telling him, right now, as you're doing this time capsule, you're the president of BYU, but when this time capsule is opened 50 years from now, you're going to be president of the church. And it's going to be open just a couple days after you become president of the church, because it was opened on the 16th. And he became president of the church on the 14th. And the things that were pulled out of the time capsule was a gavel, a gavel that was given to President Oaks, at the time president of BYU, and then a jersey with the number 14 on it. And he became president of the church on the 14th. And so did President Nelson. President Nelson, he was the 4th of January of 2018. So I just, all I can do is just take note of these things, and it's really added up. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. Let's see, Nathaniel McWirt. I know it is unrelated, but the Packers last Sunday have scored 27 points in every game they won. Oh, that's interesting. The 27th, because later he asks, does that mean anything to you? I don't know that it does, but the 27th is the day that President Nelson passed away. The 27th of September. The haystack says, and the winding up scene, which is the liquidation of a company, well, it looks like business as usual. Chrissy says, I would say that the Salt Lake Temple is about the second coming. Yeah, in one way or another, I think that it is too. Oh gosh, let me... sorry, I've been having this issue with my back. Phil and Malia waits. Hi, Jared. Hello, Malia. I'm assuming that this is probably just Malia. Make sure to follow her, you guys. Malia waits on Instagram. The haystack, and she's from Arizona too. Let's see. Remember, okay, haystack. Remember, the temple in Bountiful was being repaired, and the Lord came in the midst of that when the Nephites found joy despite the hardships. Yeah, that's true. That's something that I haven't focused on as much as I probably should have, about the temple in Bountiful under repairs. Yes. Diane Augustine, 55 new missions. The work is definitely hastening. Yep, it is. if you didn't see that video, you guys, with those 55 new missions, that brings us to an all-time high in the number of missions in the church. A record has been broken with that. And I already forgot, but there was another big announcement. It was 2 years ago, right? In 2023, where they announced 36 missions, and that brought it to a record-breaking number, but now it's gone up another 55 on top of that. Dustwave Music, I think a lot of people will be surprised at how soon the Savior comes. Yeah, no doubt. Christ himself said he's going to come at a time that we think not. This is something that I've been trying to just really drive home with the messaging on my channel, is a lot of people, when they study the second coming, they try and come up with timelines and stuff to try and figure out, a time frame. But the thing is he said that he's going to come in a time that we think not. And I'm just going to repeat it again. Ever since I started this channel, there's always been like these big events that people are looking to. So when I started the channel back then, I was like, I think that it could happen anytime. Any of the appearances, all of the appearances of the second coming. People would say things like, well, I think 2024, 2024 was the next great American eclipse. And then after that came and went, a lot of people started shifting focus to, I suppose, the rededication of the Salt Lake Temple in 2027, other people 2030, other people 2033. And the thing is that I feel like there's a stunning amount of people that do not think that it's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month or this year. Pick any year, despite all these things that we've witnessed, pick any year, and so many people are going to have that attitude. So all the way up until the end, I'm sure, yeah, that's going to be the case. People are not going to actually think that it's going to happen at that time, and they're going to be surprised. Dakine says, come, Lord Jesus, come. Yeah, and hopefully sooner than later. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Diane Augustine, coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. Yes. And I have a row on my spreadsheet, quotes A through Z, for quotes about coincidences. Just off the top of my head, I know that Elder Gong, in a recent general conference, talked about how you have sacred dates and how they coincide with other things, and that there is actually meaning to that. I a lot of the time that I spend on my channel is like looking for these special dates and things that coincide, like what we're talking about right now. All these things happening around the time of President Oaks becoming president of the church. Well, President Gong talked about, holy days and special dates and coinciding with other holy days and how there is meaning in that. And Elder Bednar said, and I'm just paraphrasing because I don't have my spreadsheet up in front of me. Elder Bednar said that when it comes to spiritual things, okay, he didn't say with everything, but with spiritual things, there is no coincidence. There is no coincidence when it comes to spiritual things. So I guess the question is, all this stuff happening around President Oaks becoming president of the church, whether it's, the terrible things that happened shortly before he became president of the church, or whether it's this time capsule that was open at BYU, or whether it's Hurricane Melissa, or whether it's this World Series game that we're talking about that went all the way to 18 innings. You know, is that spiritual? I don't know. You know, at least one of them is definitely a sign of the times, the hurricane. BYU, that is a university that's owned by the church, and President Oaks was president of BYU when that time capsule was sealed. The baseball game, I don't know, but like I said, there's a lot of people that watch that. I think the Lord speaks to his children all the time, and especially during big events like this. Sometimes it's maybe the only way that you can get through to some people. Damorous Fish says more missions leads to or equals more temple districts. Good thing there are more temples coming online. Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I was just looking at LDS Tools. I'm in the independent stake, and I was trying to look somebody up that I needed to send a text to. Well, no, I had to add him to contacts, and I needed his full name. And I was looking at all the wards in the independent stake, and there's quite a few wards. I feel like sooner rather than later, there's probably going to be a new stake created. I could be wrong about that. I don't know like how big it has to get, but all I know is that there's a lot of people in my ward that I'm in, and this area just seems to be growing. So anyway, sorry, we're talking about temple districts. I really hope that, you know, we see another temple announced for the Kansas City area. Ideally, the one at the temple lot or far west, but any temple would be great. Swan Teal, hello from England. It's nighttime here, 10:40 p.m. Well, I'm glad that you were able to catch the live stream. It's been a while since we've spoken. I need to do more of these live streams. I miss talking to you guys. Does anybody have any other thoughts? I may wrap this up in just a minute here. It seems that it's still too early to tell the full extent of the damage done by Hurricane Melissa. But so far, it's not looking good from what I've seen. Sherry L is high in waves. This next year, you know, from now until the end of 2026, so this like first year of President Oaks' presidency, we're really going to want to pay attention to things, I think. I don't have a comprehensive list of all the things that I've noticed about President Nelson's first year as president of the church, but it feels like just about every other video, I'm like pointing out some significant event that happened during the first year of his presidency. And already we're starting to see it with President Oaks. And because we're getting closer to the second coming, I wouldn't be surprised if this next year maybe sees even more crazy things than President Nelson's first year. Chrissy says, my ward was recently established. There were 12 wards and one stake. Then a new stake was formed. We are in the new stake. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind. So 12 wards. I don't think we have 12 wards, but probably have less. Well, anyway, that's good to know. Thank you. One thing that I have to wonder about President Oaks' first year is, remember how President Nelson, how he went on a global ministry tour? He wanted to start in Jerusalem, and when he was in Jerusalem, he recorded a new special witness video for the church website. If you go to Gospel Library and then you click on Jesus Christ, there's a series of videos from the the 15 apostles, where each one of them does a short video sharing their special witness of Christ. That series of videos started with during President Hinckley's presidency, but they've kept those videos, and they've updated them. I think the only one that was updated was President Nelson's after he became president of the church, and he recorded his from Jerusalem. And then as we've gotten more like new apostles since that time, they have recorded their own special witness of Christ video. And so I guess the question is President Oaks going to record a new one? If he does, is it just going to be from Salt Lake, or is he going to make a trip to Jerusalem? That would be pretty wild if he goes to Jerusalem. The Haystack says the Springfield area is blowing up. Lots of miracles. Yeah, because isn't that where you're moving to? That's probably why you're saying that, right? I thought you were saying that you're going to be moving to Springfield. Give me just 1 minute. Are you guys done?
Am I done?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually checking out right now.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to be wrapping this up here in just a second. My two girls are finally almost done. They're just checking out right now. Christina Green says, thank you for the updates. No problem. I hope that they are updates for you. Like, I can't tell, like, how often I bring news to you, or if you've already seen what I'm making a video about. So many times I feel like I'm just, like, behind. And when I put a video out, it's like, oh, everybody already knows about this. Peter Jeffries, hey Jared, somewhat interesting news. The new garments are available in the States now. The popularity crashed the LDS online store. Oh yeah, I heard something about that in a group text. That is really interesting. Roman the Great, 98% of Israel. Oh, well, yeah, I don't have much to say about that. The Haystack, I'll share in a live after this. Okay, so yeah, guys, let's keep watching. I'll do my best to document everything. If you see anything interesting, send me a text or send me an email. But again, this next year, being President Oaks' first year as president of the church, it's probably going to be wild, because President Nelson's, there's just so much that happened in his first year. We still don't really have a feel for exactly how things are going to go with President Oaks. It takes time to see what his prophetic priorities are going to be, and his themes and phrases and stuff that he introduces, and the big projects that happen under his presidency. It's a very exciting time. I think there's a lot to look forward to. Amy Stratton says, love all the info, smiley face. Let's see. Jumpy Ava says, 3rd Nephi 8. Yeah, I think so. Where's Naomi?
She's in the bathroom.
Yeah, just one last thing. It's such an interesting little detail in the Book of Mormon, in the lead up to that storm and all the calamities that took place. An interesting detail is that one of the last notable events that are documented before that is there was an uptick in baptisms. They could have left that out, but, you know, as they were writing the record of the church and what was going on among the people, that was the last thing that was documented in 3rd Nephi before the destructions came. And that's what we're seeing right now. A record number of new converts, all these missions that have just been announced that are going to be created next year in 2026. So, okay, looks like my other daughter is coming right now. So I'm going to take off. Thanks for joining me. I'll try and do more live streams. I'll talk to you guys later.